My next step is to take my binding, find the end of it here because it's super long, fold it in half, give myself at least 2 or 3 inches to close the binding on the corner, and start at a corner of the quilt and start attaching the binding. And since I'm doing this whole thing by hand or by machine, I'm going to start with sewing it on the back. And on this particular one, I'm making the binding a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the quilt. The reason is I want my binding to be really full and fat. So I'm going to have extra inside the binding, and you'll see what, if you don't understand, you'll see what I mean. So this is a little tricky because I've got to keep my stitch line a 1/4 inch away from the binding edge, but then I also have to keep a 1/4 inch, the binding edge, a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the quilt. So I'm going to be sewing it on with a 1/2 inch total between my stitch line and the edge of the quilt. And see if you can see it, but right over here on my machine, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the stitch plate has numbers on it, and those numbers tell me that I'm a 1/2 inch away from my sew line. So I know I'm good to go. And I'm just going to sew all the way around the quilt.